What's up? Welcome to the Existential Stoic Podcast. Today we're going to be talking about the best books that we've read over the last year. I'm Danny, and here, everybody. Randy, what's up, Randy?
Yo, Danny.
Figured we'd skip kind of introductions, go right to it.
Let's get right to the meat and potatoes,
Let's get
huh?
right to the meat and potatoes. Have you read some good books this year?
Yeah, I mean, it turns out that we both read a lot of books,
Incidentally,
and incidentally, and listen
yeah,
to a lot of books too. And yeah, so it turns out you can learn stuff from books. There are some books that are great. There are some books that are horrible. There are some books that have made me the most terrified I've ever been in my entire life.
yeah.
So it's kind of like we're gonna go through today. What are some of the best books?
Just highlighting some of our favorites. Yeah, it's funny too. I used to love audiobooks when I was commuting a lot. Man, they were the best because the radio
Mhm.
gets so old so fast. And like I used to actually like when I switched to audiobooks, I would like enjoy getting back in the car for my commute because I was like, yeah, I can listen to the next, hour of whatever and go from there. So that was awesome. Yeah, they're good.
hmm
Do you listen to
Yeah,
when
I
you're like
remember
walking and stuff or just regularly or
all the time walking, commuting, sometimes just playing video games. I'll be listening to them. Yeah, all types of times. Uh, I remember Zig Ziglar in his See You at the Top thing. He said that if you listen to basically just the time that you spend driving, you could get like a full college degree worth of education from listening in about 6 years.
yeah, dude, because people don't even realize, dude, they're in the car for like, most people are in the car for a half hour, hour each way. You
hmm
figure most audiobooks are about like 10 to 20 hours if they're unabridged. You
hmm
knock them out quick. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it keeps you focused on driving, but paying attention to something that passes time. It's great.
hmm
Going.
Yeah.
Okay. Should we get to our list of best books then?
Well, just before we get into
Oh yeah.
that, yeah. So like I noticed that some of the books I read are like the newest books that are released. Some of the books that I read are older books. How do you find books that you like to read?
That's a good question. You know that because some of them on my list are old, really old. And
Hmm.
they're books I've read before, actually. I just wanted to put them on because I liked them and I read them again this year.
hmm
Others, I just kind of look around. Others are new. Some are kind of like things I just stumbled upon. It just happens. So not all of these are 2022 or 2023 books by any means.
hmm
But there are stuff I discovered this year. So usually I
Okay.
try to look like, just depends on what I'm looking for. And I kind of try and look around and just try things out. And I usually read a lot of samples of stuff before I figure out what I like,
Hmm. That's good.
or
Yeah, I
recommendations
usually I
from
usually
friends.
just go based on the title and the cover.
Looks good.
And sometimes it bites me in the back.
Yeah. Well, if it's got Fabio on it, it's a good book.
Oh yeah, definitely. All right, so let's get into it. I guess we'll just go one at a time and then
Yeah.
talk about the book and what it is and why.
All right. I'll start with so I have a mix of all different stuff on here. Um I'll start with one that I really did enjoy, which we both read, which was Start from Zero. So
Mm.
it is a book about basically being able to start your own business and stuff. And the reason why I really enjoyed it was one, I thought it was really eye-opening in terms of like shifting my perspective. Because we're taught to think a certain way about like working for others, selling our time and all that. And I think it was really eye-opening reading it, seeing a different perspective on that. Also, I think it was really valuable because it was very full of like useful tips and I think and practical knowledge that anyone would benefit from looking at it. So I think it's a really valuable book in that sense too, and just to inspire you to do something different. Because I noticed myself,
Mm.
like I've been over the past like I don't know 5, 6 years, I've been transitioning into doing new things, and I want to keep doing that. And I think part of what's been bothering me is also that kind of mindset and stuff that I carried with me, and this was very helpful. So it's a good book.
hmm Yeah, I like that one because it is practical. Like very, very practical. It's like
Yep.
somebody did this to become very successful. Here's all the steps they did it. Here's how they taught a whole bunch of other people to become very successful using the same steps. And then here it is.
That's the other thing I liked about it was a lot of times you run into self-help books or like how to do X books, and it's one person did it and then they write a book. And it's like that's great
Mhm.
because that worked for you. But the problem is that's not really a model to follow. This he's done courses for people, he's trained others, there's been other success stories, there's even examples in the book. So you see that it's something that like has been modified over time to work for many people, not just one person,
Mhm.
which is really good. Yeah.
Mhm. So on a similar vein of actually
Cool.
practical instead of just theory, there's a book called High Performance Habits. Okay. So this was written by Brandon Burchard, and he's the same thing. He's a life coach, but he's actually a life coach for people who have a life. So like people like Oprah and Usher and a whole bunch of other people. And what he's done is
And they
he's
still need a life coach.
I know, right? Go figure. And he's basically uh, interviewed and conducted research on hundreds of top performers across multiple fields and found out what the habits that
Hmm.
are that all of them have. And he
Okay.
goes through what these habits are and how you can actually make that part of your life. And then he's taken these and implemented them in his life coaching clients to help them improve their life, how to become more highly effective people. But it's not just theory and it's not seven things like sharpen your saw. I
Yeah.
mean, how I like,
I know
okay,
you hate that book.
that book grinds my gears. But like, no, number one, that book is for anybody who reads that book, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. Number one, it's 25 years old.
Yeah.
So you're not getting anything new. And also, you're not getting anything more than everyone else has because everyone's read that book. And my opinion is garbage because it's a bunch of theory. It's some guy who thought, this will sharpen your saw.
Yeah.
Start
Yeah,
with the
do
end in
this.
mind. Yeah, that stuff great. Yeah, that makes sense. Sure. It's not actually based on data, not based on successes, not based on anything like that. It's a bunch of anecdotal evidence. So this book, High Performance Habits, is actually if you want to improve your habits to improve your life, this is the book that actually has the data behind it to prove that it works.
Yeah, you know what I like about books like that too is like not all of us can afford a life coach that Oprah and the
Mm-hmm.
likes of like Usher go to, right? I mean, I'm sure the guy costs a fortune.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, life coaches in general can cost a lot. So it's like these books are a really helpful way to kind of get into this and improve yourself without the cost, without that high cost if you can't afford it, and actually like doing it yourself. It is harder to do yourself sometimes, but I think if they're written well and done well, they lay things out really clearly. And I think, that's a huge selling point.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. My next one, to shift gears a little to a different genre entirely, um, not self-help, is I actually read the Silo trilogy. So
Mm-hmm.
I started watching the Apple, I think Apple made a show called Silo. And I started watching it when it first came out. I was like, this is interesting. Then I realized it was based on a book. So then I went and I just got the books. And I read the books. And the books were really good. So I would definitely recommend them if anybody likes like science fiction, kind of like adventure stories. It's kind of in that genre, dystopian kind of world. Really interesting, very well written. And actually, I'd have to say that the show definitely deviates a lot from the books, and I think the books do a better job. So just a
Oh,
fun
that's
read if
cool.
you want something fun
Yeah.
to do. Yeah.
And that's Silo, Silo?
Yeah, Silo. It's by
Okay.
Hugh Howley. I think
Okay.
it's been out for a few years, I think. I'm not sure exactly
Sweet.
when it came out. Yeah.
Sweet. That's always good to have a nice trilogy to read.
Yeah.
My next one is a book called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry.
Nice.
So I just recently read it for the first time, and it was so good that I just read it for the second time because I noticed in my life I was getting stuck in this habit of hurry, where I thought I needed to get more done even more quickly, and there was no end to it. And
Yeah.
so in his book, he talks a lot about how that's basically like the common condition nowadays, where people think they have to get so much done, they have to get it done faster and even faster. And I noticed it like in all aspects of my life. Like I'd be walking everywhere really fast. I get pissed off when somebody got in my way when I was walking really fast. And so like all these things where I was just being being stuck in a hurry. So what I like about that book is it kind of gives four ways to reduce the hurry in your life, four actionable ways to reduce the hurry in your life, and also a lot of the benefits of doing so. And I started implementing those habits, and I did notice like a very significant, palpable decrease in my stress almost within a day of implementing
Well,
this
that's
stuff.
good then. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
valuable in
So,
itself right
yeah.
there.
Yeah. So I like that one. I thought that was a very good book. So that made my list as well.
No, that makes sense. It's funny. Like I think ever since like as technology came about and got better, we just our expectations for things being fast and also for people being available. because with cell phones and email, I remember like, before that, you went home from work, you weren't nobody was contacting you. Unless maybe it was an emergency or something, they might call your home, but like they weren't expecting to get you. Now it's like they expect you to, you get an email, people expect a response no matter what time of day it is. You get a phone call, you get, a DM, whatever, like, and I think that's really changed how we perceive like the speed at which things need to happen. And it's like this constant rush. So yeah, I think that's a really good book then. People should check it
Hmm.
out. That's
Hmm.
cool. My next one is one you recommended actually, which is Code by Charles Petzold. And the second edition is out now. I really would recommend this to everyone. This is a book where, how can I explain this? Basically, he builds within the book an old Intel, I think it was 8080 processor. Like he builds it on paper, explains how like basically the processor works, the logic works, how everything works within your computer. I would recommend it to everybody because one, he did a really good job, super easy to understand. And if you want to understand more about how your technology works, this would be a good starting point to understand like the actual core hardware that is required for any computer to run. Granted, he's talking about a processor that's like way outdated, but the same core concepts apply. And I think it's a really interesting read and totally worth it if you're interested in technology at all.
Yeah, and that was a good one because he starts from first principles.
Yeah, yeah.
He starts like if you don't know what binary anything is, you and your friend live across the street, you're trying to communicate with a flashlight. How do you go? And it's like,
Wait,
yeah.
it's funny because the hex color codes.
Hmm.
Like I never even thought about why they were like the way they are. I never even looked it up, and then he explained it in there. I was like, oh, that makes sense. Like,
Yeah, right.
didn't even dawn on me to even look it up. Yeah, yeah, it was a
Yeah,
really good
I'm
book though.
packed with so much information.
Yeah, it is. It's
Definitely.
really interesting too. It's just fascinating how he goes through it.
Hmm. So my next one would be uh, a book called Breath by James Nestor.
That was on my list too.
Oh, how about that?
Good
Yeah,
one.
so this one is incredible because it basically flips everything we've ever thought about breathing on its head. And the crazy stuff is that it's all backed by science and data. So like
Yeah,
everything we've always thought about breathing, 100% wrong. And like there's so many things that you can pull from that book and it's just crazy, but like some things, like one of the biggest indicators of life longevity is just lung capacity.
yeah,
Yeah, how about that? And I mean, crazy stuff that I've gotten from the book. One of the things that I got from that book that I do on a regular basis is just taping my mouth when I sleep. And
yeah. Breathing
there's
only
a whole
through your
bunch.
nose.
Yeah, yeah, because there's so many benefits when you breathe through your nose. It increases nitric oxide, which helps you in so many different ways. Plus, you stop snoring. All of your vital indicators
I
get
was going to
better.
mention that point though too, because a lot of people that work out, they take nitric oxide supplements, because
Hmm.
it helps when you're exercising and stuff or doing strenuous activity, and just breathing through your nose increases it by 16%, I think he said. And this is backed by
Hmm.
science. It was really, yeah, it was an interesting book. Also, I learned a ton
Hmm.
about the nose. I had no idea,
Right,
about how that organ works. It was interesting.
dude. Who would
Yeah.
have thought that you have erectile tissue in your nose? Right?
I
Yeah.
guess it makes sense though, because it's also weird that I always found, I knew this, but I always found it weird that it's you switch sides. The
Hmm.
air switches side through your nose periodically. It's very weird. Yeah, it's a weird
Hmm.
organ.
Yeah. All right. On to you.
Oh, right, right. I forgot because I also had that book. It's a good book though. Um,
Hmm.
let me see. Next on my list is, oh, you know what? This one I read a little while ago, but I wanted to mention because it's a good one. Is Python One-Liners was a great book.
Ooh.
If
Hmm.
anybody is interested in programming or learning programming, I would highly recommend Python One-Liners because basically the whole idea is writing like one line script to solve various problems. And I mean, very, complex problems, more complex than you could imagine within one line of script. So it's a really nice, if you're familiar with Python, it's a really nice way to kind of think about, how can I make my code more concise, learn new things, learn new tricks. If you're not familiar with it, it's a great introduction. He does a good job explaining everything. And I think it gives you some really neat problems to solve throughout. So it's a really cool practical book in that sense.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a great one. Uh, my next one is $100 million offers. So
Oh,
it's not spelled out for anyone who's looking at it. It's just the dollar sign 100 capital M and then offers. But this was written by Alex Hermosi, and we've talked about him a few times on the channel. But he's a guy who basically taught
Is he more
himself.
jacked now than he was before? Because he keeps
Dude,
getting
he's
bigger.
a freaking beast. He is a
I know.
beast right now.
Every
Yeah.
time I love watching, every time I see him, it's like he gets bigger. It's
Oh my
so
gosh,
funny.
he's like Wolverine. It's insane.
He's huge.
Yeah. But he
Uh,
basically taught himself business because he for a while he was living on the floor of his gym and living on dollars a day, and he taught himself business to where now he's making over $100 million a year. And this book does, again, very actionable, very like this is one of the reasons why I love this book and why I really like everything that he does is he's not teaching you business to make money off of you. Like
no,
they're pretty
isn't the
much
book
pretty
like
much
$2?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It's like, and it's only $2, or I forget what. I think, anyways. So what I like that he does is he's not doing this to make money off of you. He's like, listen, I had to go through all this stuff to learn this. It sucks, but here's all the lessons that I've learned. I've paid, tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars to learn all this stuff. But here it is, because all these other guys who are selling you all these things like, how to get rich and all this stuff, they're doing it to make money off of you. That's how they got rich. He's
yeah,
like,
yeah,
that's crazy. It's like, yeah, sure, I could sell you a course to get rich, but there's a million other ways to get rich. I got rich doing it another way. So here, have all this for free. And really, the stuff that he goes over in there are some of, I mean, I've read a ton of books on personal finance and how to get rich and all this stuff. And this is some of the best stuff that you'll find anywhere. And it's not the common advice that you get from everyone else. Not that common canned like, oh, get your followers, tell everybody on
yeah.
social media what you're gonna do. It's like this is real actionable intel.
I that's on my list actually, so I'm meaning to read that soon. And I really like him because he doesn't strike me like that is the biggest problem I think in really especially to get like the improving your life and especially the area of improving your wealth. So much of it is just like it's like snake oil, it's like that's how they're making money. They really don't know what they're doing. They just know how to sell courses or they know how to
Mm-hmm.
sell like an idea, but they're not really doing it themselves. So how do you know it actually works? Whereas he's like actually it's practical experience, way different.
I mean, it gets to a point. So like because I've gone to a whole bunch of this stuff from people who did all the internet marketing, and I know a whole bunch of people in internet marketing, and it's like it's crazy because I've gone to a bunch of these courses, and I'll meet people who also go to these courses who have done nothing in their life, but they're like,
Yeah,
"Oh, dude, I'm going to sell a course on how to be a life coach," and it's like, dude, you're 26, you've done nothing in your life. What are you going to coach anybody on?
yeah,
And it's
you have
like,
no idea.
yeah.
But that's what they think though. It doesn't matter. It's like,
Mhm.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy. It is. Um, is it me? Right? My next
Yeah.
one is so everybody's talking about AI right now. We all know that. There is a book called AI and Machine Learning for Coders. I gotta look up who it's by. But it's called AI and Machine Learning for Coders. The guy that wrote it is one of the guys that developed TensorFlow for Google.
Mm.
It focuses on TensorFlow because obviously he developed it, and it's both an introduction to what machine learning is, understanding neural networks, but it's also actually like a guide to help you learn how to use it. And it gives you the tools to actually use it. It's awesome. I think anybody interested in AI and machine learning should check it out. It's very approachable and accessible. I mean, even if you didn't know any code, I think you could manage with it. You might have to look some stuff up, but he gives you all the code in the book. And it's super fascinating. I'm learning a ton. And this is something everybody's talking about, so I think it's worth knowing. And understanding how things works helps you leverage their value more.
Yeah, and that's like learning it from the horse's mouth because that's
Yeah,
basically the
literally.
guy who
He
created it.
developed the
Yeah,
things. Yeah. So yeah,
that's awesome.
if he can't write a book, a guy doing it out of the hell can.
Yeah. My next one is by a very popular author, but actually not his most popular book. Not a book that many people have actually heard of by him. So, you guys might know Dale Carnegie of How to Influence and Influence People book, and that's a
Yeah.
good book. But this other book, I think, is exceptional. It's called How to Stop Worrying and Start Living.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And so this was written back in the 30s. And this was after he already wrote How to Win Friends and Influence People. And he was already doing all his public speaking. He did these public speaking courses and he noticed that like people were anxious. They were
Yeah.
worrying about everything. They had heartburn, had all these things. They were stressed
Wait,
out
this was back in the 1930s?
back in the 1930s.
See,
And
same
I
as us.
know, go figure, right? And he went to the library, he looked up books on worry, and it turned out there were more books on worms than there were on worry. So he's like, okay, this material doesn't exist. I'll write a book on it. So he did
Nice.
years of research on this, how to do it. And he also, this is another thing where he worked with the people in his courses to decrease their worry and find out what things they actually did to decrease their worries. Very good book on if you're anxious, if you worry anything, this is a great book for how to deal with it.
You know, I love about that too. And it's like philosophy too. Like people have been dealing with the same when you're talking about like stress, worry in our lives, we've been dealing with the same problems for all of human history. So a lot like, sometimes it doesn't matter if the book's brand new. There's still a lot of valuable information in it. Like, and I think it's worth looking at. It also reminds you that we're people and we have these problems. Like they've always existed with human society and human beings, and they're going to persist for the future, you know? Like I think it's very nice to
It's
know
like,
that
how
sometimes.
could they be worrying there? There were no cell phones, there was
Yeah.
no email, there was no, how could they possibly be worrying?
No running water, no. It's like, oh God. Yeah, it's
Uh,
interesting. That's a
and
good
they're
one.
stressed out then. They're like, you believe it? They're delivering the newspaper every day now. What's
Yeah.
come of this world?
This is insane. This is too fast. Oh my God. My next one I will mention then is oh, so I wanted to mention this one because I was rereading some of the philosophy books I read. See, these are both books I've read before, but I'll mention this one first. Is I would definitely recommend The Enchiridion by Epictetus. I think it's great. If you never read it, it's short. It means the handbook or the guide, the title. It's really a short book. It's not that long. I can't remember the exact page length, but it's a great book. It's really practical. It's all short sections that you can look at. And I think the Stoics, have been popularized not, in recent years, but there's a lot of value in looking at it. I think going back to these the ancients kind of looked at ethics and morality and the good life in terms of virtue. And it's all about building character. I think it's a really good way to think about how to move forward with our lives and better ourselves. So I definitely recommend that book. It's very, very interesting. And there's so much now on it that if you do need help trying to go through it, there's a ton of resources, you know.
And you can even search on YouTube for Existential Stoic Podcast and
Yeah,
Caridian. And we've actually done a book
that's
review on
true.
that
We
one.
did do it. So, yeah,
Yeah.
there
How
you go.
about that?
Nice.
Yeah. My next one is a book by an author who was a contemporary of Dale Carnegie, not
Oh,
nearly as popular, but the book is called How I Raised Myself from Failure to Success in Selling. And the
wait,
guy's
that's
name
from
is
then?
Frank Betcher. Yeah.
Oh, no kidding. I didn't know that. I've
Yeah.
only read part of it, but I didn't think it was that out. I mean, not that outdated, but that year, that time period. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
dude,
interesting.
crazy. He was friends with Dale Carnegie back in the day. And it basically go because I'm a sucker for stories like this, okay? Because it's so easy to believe like, oh, these successes, like there's something different about them. Like
Yeah.
they clearly have something that I don't have. And I love stories like this because most successes, most millionaires, most of them did it themselves. They didn't get it
Yeah.
handed to them. There's actually kind of like a very common theme that happens where one generation builds it, one generation maintains it, and one generation loses it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, unless they do a very good job of maintaining it. So most people end up doing it themselves. And stories like this, he again, very actionable stuff that he learned from his life, how he was able to go from being a complete failure to a success. And it's a good story too.
What I like about stories like that too, is I think a lot of us we tell ourselves a narrative to protect ourselves. So we see others that are really successful, like, oh, they must have been lucky, or this must have happened. I can't do it. And it's a way to protect ourselves, but it also holds us back. And when you read stories like that, you realize that you are holding yourself back, and there's nothing that really should stop you, nor is there anything different between you and these successes, other than I would say they took advantage of opportunities that were presented to them instead of like staying stagnant or fearful or limited. So I think it's like really important to like look at stuff like that. It just helps you change your
Mhm.
perspective and change your mindset. It's a good one.
Mhm.
My next one I'll mention then is another philosopher because I reread this recently too, and I forgot how much I love his work, which is Genealogy of Morality by Nietzsche. So one of the reasons I think people should read Nietzsche is we get caught up thinking we know what is the case, and I like him because there's no truth, and you know, and it's very convincing at times. But no, the genealogy of morals is also he tries to do a genealogical analysis of moral values, good and bad, good and evil, where they came from, and what that means, and how that's affected sort of human society. It's kind of argumentative, speculative. It's a really interesting book. I would definitely recommend it to anybody. And the reason why I picked this one of his books is it's three essays that are more or less coherent arguments throughout. Because his later works, they're more fragmented, so it's a lot harder to read and follow. These are much easier to follow if you're new to him.
Mm.
I think it's a good starting place.
Oh, cool. Good book. Uh, my next one is called Goodbye Things. So this is one
Stupid
about,
things.
yeah, stupid things. Goodbye Things. It's a book on minimalism. And it was a very interesting book on minimalism. When I was looking back at how many times I've read it, I actually shocked myself how many times I've read it. Every time I read it, though, I get rid of more stuff, which is cool. Uh, but and it's just, I mean, if you've never learned about minimalism, very interesting, because this book goes by the premise that we're sold the belief through advertising, which is
Yeah.
essentially propaganda, that more things equals more happiness. And how's that working out for you?
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Uh yeah.
I know, I was gonna say, we were talking about this actually the other day, and I mentioned too, like ancient philosopher Epicurus, he said we have natural desires and vain or artificial. And the vain or artificial arrives from society, pressures, expectations, and like if you look at contemporary times, advertising, right? It's made up stuff. We don't need it, but it tries to convince us that we need it in order to be happy, to live well, or to be whole. And that's a fundamental problem.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
and so this is just like, well, try it on. If it and the cool thing is, he says, "Hey, listen, if you get rid of stuff and it doesn't improve your life, you can always get it back."
Yeah, you
You
can.
know? But
And we know it's
I've rarely ever heard of somebody saying, I got rid of a bunch of the junk lying around my house and I was unhappy about it.
I was losing sleep at night. I've
Yeah.
gotten rid of so much stuff over the years, and it's only made me happier because I know I know where all the important things are. I don't need all this junk lying around or reminding me of things that I don't want to do anymore or whatever. And it's amazing. Like I was thinking about this the other day. I was driving. I see so many self-storage places now, and it's like if you're storing your crap, like I get if you're moving or something, that makes sense. Like if you have a period between houses or something, okay, that's fine. You have stuff you need to put it somewhere. But if you're just storing stuff in there, like, what are you doing with it? Like, are you going to
Hmm.
see it all the time? Are you doing, like, I mean, really, like, it's just crazy. We hold on to this stuff for so long for no reason.
Yeah, I
And it's
heard
just like, it's
I
just
forget where
weights.
it was. There was something that I was listening to the other day where they were saying for every human or every person in America, there's like 7 square meters of storage facility.
Jesus, that's a lot. That's insane.
It's like basically everybody has a full room just of storage.
Because we don't get rid of crap. We think, oh, it'll be
Yeah.
worth a lot later or something or whatever. And it's like, but all these things they do, they hold you down. They cost money. You need space for them. They also keep you in the past. Like, I don't know. I think yeah, it's a good idea. Yeah.
Mhm.
Nice one. I will go with my next one. Oh, this is another because I've been interested in AI recently, and I've been trying to learn more about it. Deep learning with Python. Now,
Oh.
this is a good one. It's a little hard, but this goes more over the concepts and theory behind AI, machine learning, neural networks. Really fascinating. If you're interested in it, I would definitely recommend taking a shot at it. You might need, I don't know, depending on your level of understanding of code and stuff, you might need a little bit of help, but it's also an approachable book. That's why I picked it. Fairly accessible, I think, for anyone, and just with a little bit of effort, you can probably understand it. But it's really interesting.
Hmm. Yeah, and AI is only getting more popular. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think like look, we can't help it. We're all surrounded by technology. We all use technology, and I see so many people that use it and like have no clue how it works. And when you start to remove that sort of like veil or the layers and you start to understand how it works, it's just one, it works much better for you. You also understand what it can and can't do, and you also like kind of know how to use it better, which is just helpful, you know?
Hmm. Yeah. How many more do you have?
Really like one-ish, I guess. I
Okay.
could add more if you want because I've read more. I just made a
Okay.
shortish list.
Yeah, because I just had I just basically had like a group of books and another group of books and another group of books.
I could do
All right.
two if you want to do two
Okay.
more.
Okay,
All
yeah.
right.
So I'm just gonna so like the other thing, which is just a group of books,
Okay.
was Oprah's book club books.
Yeah, I know
So,
you've been bitching about or mentioning them all the time.
dude, I know. I
Like
was blown
carrying the
away.
book.
So I was blown away. So typical male response. I was like,
I don't know.
Oprah's
Oh,
book,
yeah. Yeah,
Oprah's book club.
I see.
Whatever. Yeah, sure. I'll go watch The View also. Yeah, why not?
Make myself
But
some tea and get a snuggie.
yeah, exactly. But I forget how I guess I was looking for more consistent books to read. And so I picked up one of her books and I read it and I was just like floored. It's not the typical book that I would have read. It's more of a story, and I don't really read, I guess, a novel, that's what they call it. And I don't really read novels. But I was just floored how good it was. And then I read another one, and I was just like, oh my gosh. And so now I constantly read her books because
Well,
they're incredible.
the one thing I will say about her book club was one, if you read a lot of books, it gets hard to find new books. We both struggle
Mm-hmm.
with this. So sometimes having a list is super helpful. The other cool thing about her list is it's not one genre. It's all sorts of stuff. Some of it's self-help, some of it's novels, some of it's this, that, stories, whatever. There's all these different things. So I think, yeah, it's a good idea to have, just something to go to when you're stuck. It's like
Mm-hmm.
people that like use like the top 100 movies of all time list and try to go through. It's just something to
Yeah.
go to if you need something. That's a good one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I would mention actually, what was I gonna say? Sorry. Wait, am I not? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hacking APIs was a good book. I like that book.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a book basically on, APIs. It's how different forms of like software communicate and stuff. They basically are behind everything that we do now with on the internet, on your phone, all that. It's all involves APIs. So hacking APIs both gives you an understanding of what APIs are, but it's also really a practical book about hacking them. How do you hack them? How do you find vulnerabilities? And I was fascinated. One, I mean, I know a fair amount about technology, but it blew me away what you can use Google for. So like, I mean, I already use Google for a lot, but this took it to a next level. So I would definitely recommend hacking APIs to anybody. And it also is like, I think learning more about the security and technology is also important to understand how vulnerable we are sometimes. Like it is important to realize that. So yeah, it's a really cool book though. I would check it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was an awesome one. And that one, I mean, that's like a step-by-step guide for if you're looking to become
Literally.
and
Oh
and
yeah.
and what I forget
You
exactly
even
what it
you
was
set
in
up
the
a little
intro.
lab. You set up at the
Yeah,
packing lab and everything. It's awesome. Yeah.
yeah. And one of the things that I liked that he said in the forward of that book, and he was like uh something along the lines of APIs will be one of the largest vulnerabilities by 2023 or something like that. And this is
Yeah.
like direct access to data, which is the most valuable resource out there. So it's like if you ever wanted to learn hacking, this might be something that could be
Yeah.
worthwhile. Yeah.
Definitely
So
worthwhile.
yeah. My next one is a group of books that I just listen to. I don't read these, but I listen to these at least once a month,
Huh.
sometimes even more. It's Meditations by Marcus Aurelius and the Tao Te Ching.
Both awesome books. Two of my
Yeah,
favorites. Dude,
incredible
I loved
books.
it. I love the Tao Te Ching because I've read that probably like 24 times and it's like always different. I always find new stuff because the way it's written, it just, yeah, love
Yeah,
that book.
and
And Marcus
it's
Aurelius
like
is
where it
cool.
meets you that day when you're listening.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, where your mind is, you'll find new things. It's great. It's such a good book.
Mhm. And every time, yeah, I feel the same way. Where every time I listen to those, I learn new things. I feel like there's different parts of myself that I can work on, and I'm always blown away how this is like timeless wisdom
Oh yeah,
from
both of them are totally
from
timeless.
hundreds, thousands of years ago, however long ago it was. Where it's like,
Thousands.
yeah, we're like this is just as applicable now as it was then, and it stood the test of time.
Wait,
And
it
yeah, so
shows
I
you that
love
like
those
we're
things.
all human beings, you know, it shows you. And I think I those are those are it's a good pairing because you know Marcus Aurelius, you know, had it all, yet he was
Hmm.
still such a humble, normal guy. Dao De
Hmm.
Ching, a little bit more mysterious, but I think they both kind of touch on similar ideas. And they're both real. If you're stressed out, they are so helpful for like just slowing down, thinking about your life differently, and also thinking about like reminding yourself that you have the power to make it better. You don't have to wait for anybody
Hmm.
else. You don't have to wait for the world. You have to do it, you know?
Hmm.
And I think yeah, it's a really good idea.
Dude, and these are great ones because they're available for free on YouTube. You
Oh
can
yeah.
listen to somebody read it to you. If you listen on double speed, the
Yeah.
Tao Te Ching, you can listen in less than an hour. Marcus Aurelius meditations in like 2 hours.
And you know, honestly, they're a little bit out of their copyright, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
There's newer translations and stuff, but I mean, you're fine with pretty much anyone. It should be okay. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, they are. They are like two of my favorite books. They're really good though.
Hmm.
I'll mention one. So I do read. I know you don't read a lot. I read a lot of fantasy and sci-fi. So also, so I'll mention one more fantasy series I'm reading right now. It's the Faithful and the Fallen series by John Gwynne. I think it was like 2015 it started. It's 4 books. Very good. I'm not through it yet, but it's very good. It's you
Oh.
know, it's like I don't know. I like fantasy. I like reading sometimes more than watching TV, and you get the whole world building and everything. And I think a lot of times too, there's a lot of philosophy stuff that happens there too, human emotion stuff that's fun to just check out too. So it's a good read. If you like knights,
Hmm.
magic, stuff like that, definitely check it out.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Uh, my last one is books that I was surprised. I initially I hated them and I still hated them all the way through, but I was surprised that there were hidden gems in them.
Okay, fair enough.
So yeah,
That sounds more
so
like an insult.
I know they're like I hate these
Even
books,
so, at the end, I
but
was still so shocked that there was like a couple of
yeah,
things that were valuable.
it was like I hate these books, but there was good information in them. One was Think Like a Monk by Jay Sheedy, and then the second one was Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. I know, I know.
My
So
life's been
like
awesome. It
both
continues to
of
be awesome. Thank you.
both of these books, I was like, the whole time I was reading them, I was like, I just need to stop reading this. I just need to stop reading this. I should stop reading this. But then every once in a while, I would come upon like a hidden gem in there. I was like, wow, this guy's deep. And then I'd be like, why am I reading this? Why am I reading this?
You know what's funny about it? Like not I like actually like Matthew McConaughey. I actually like him as an actor and all too. And when he came out with that book, it was just funny because it's like it's just been like a smooth sail mostly for like it's just funny. Like I nothing against the
I,
guy. It just cracked me up because it's not this is not like a story where like something happened and you build it. It was just like things were great. And now I still go
but you
pretty
know what?
much.
You know what it is though. When he was like 18, he had one bad year. So
Yeah,
like
yeah,
he was like
yeah.
the king of his high school, and then when he was 18, he had one bad year, and you know he struggled through 1 year, and he talks about it in that book. He's like, everybody has to go through a difficult period. And I'm like, yeah, dude, 40 years, like
Yeah, it was a year, dude. Come on. Like,
I know.
oh my God, it's so funny. But that is what's funny about it is like you see the perspective. It just cracks me up anyway.
Yeah.
Ah,
So,
so yeah, there you have it. If you guys
mhm.
need books to read, here's a whole bunch for you to check out. I highly recommend them. All
I know.
different stuff.
Wait, before you
Yeah,
finish, I thought it would have been funny if in the beginning, obviously, I just thought about this now, but if in the beginning we
a
were
little
like,
late.
okay, yeah, best books, uh, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck,
Oh wait, what's
and
the secret?
Unfuck Yourself, The Secret, and The 4 Hour Work Week.
Yeah, we'll
Boom,
do a worst book. We
done.
should do a worst books episode too.
I know,
Books to
right?
stay away from. Oh my God.
Yeah.
You know what? If they get like popular and everybody just like,
Converges
I
on them, and
yeah.
then
Now if you have,
well, you know what it is? People don't even read them. They just
I
buy
know.
them to put them on their bookshelf and, say like they virtue signal that they're going to read that book.
Yeah, I love people that do that because I've read so many books and I've actually had to throw them away because I move too much and I can't well, not I could donate them or whatever, but like I can't carry them all. So it's like I'm just like, You know, that's why
Yeah.
I do like digital now. It does make it a little bit easier for me because you don't have to carry
Oh
lug
yeah.
around all these books. Man,
Absolutely. Yeah, I
man.
do. Traveling used to be terrible because you'd have to
Oh my
bring like a
God.
stack of books this big.
I used to have to bring a book bag for him just for books. And then like,
Uh-huh.
because you could, if a plane ride, you can knock out a whole book. So it's like, yeah, it's ridiculous.
Hmm. Yeah.
Anyway, well, there you have it. There's some books to listen to and a few suggestions at the end to stay away from.
They're okay
They-
books, but don't think that you're going to get anything it's
No,
not going to change your life.
they're like, what do you call it? Like pop psychology, you know? It's
Yeah.
like clever
They're
sayings and
books that
stuff.
everybody else has read. So if you read those, you're going to be mediocre. Like
Yeah,
that's basically it.
yeah, basically. There you have it. So our suggestions for best books. Thanks for listening. We'll be back later this week with a quick fix. Check us out on YouTube wherever you get your podcasts. Please like, subscribe, share. It helps us out a lot. And if you can leave a review, hopefully go in. That'd be very helpful. We'll be back later this week with a quick fix. Until then, later, Andy.
Later, Danny.